Hello and welcome to this presentation on using the AutoDoc HSE PDF scanner. Before we get started, I'll just stress again that this PDF scanner will only work if the run as another user service is set up in your AutoDoc HSE configuration. You can find more information about the run as another user service in the reference manual, or you can check out the presentation on post-installation tasks. Okay, back to the scanner. The PDF scanner is like the PDF printer in that it takes input and outputs it to PDF. In broad terms, the PDF scanner takes an image and converts it to PDF. But there are a few variations on this based around input and output. Firstly, on the input side, the scanner can take an image, either as a file, like a JPEG image file for example, or even a screen capture, and convert it, or it can actually interface to a peripheral device like a physical scanner or a digital camera and convert images from these to PDF. On the output side, you have the option of just doing a basic PDF, which sits in your output tray, just like with the PDF printer, or you can actually automate delivery of the output PDF using an AutoDoc HSE form configuration. So since we have a bit to cover in this presentation, I'll start with the basics and work up. So the PDF scanner is in the client viewer here, and this button here allows you to dump a screen capture into the scan tray. So for example, I'm going to do a screenshot of this view just using the print screen keyboard button, which I've just done, and now I'll paste it in using this button. And now if I scan, you'll see that the output tray number up here goes up one page. If I open it up, there's our screenshot, straight from a clipboard into a PDF file. Now you can achieve the same thing with an image file just by copying the file, like this, and then opening the scan tray itself, the folder, and pasting it in, or you can simply drag and drop. So copying and dragging and dropping, or you can actually just drag and drop straight onto the scanner itself, like this, which if I then open, we'll find is in there. Now I'll just check the thumbnails option so you can see that in action as well. And I'll add a nice fat border and scan again. So we've got another page in our output tray this time. If we open that up, we'll see we've now got thumbnails because of the thumbnail option. If I go to the second page, see we've got a nice border around our image. So that's the simplest way to use the scanner. Now just a note on page sizes here. This setting here determines the output scaling of the PDF. It's important to remember that this setting determines the scaling of any images, and it's determined based on the width of the image. So if I have an image which is twice the size of an A4 sheet horizontally, it will be scaled back to fit the width of the sheet. Remember that this applies to images that are smaller than the paper selected here too. So if you have a very small image, the scanner is going to blow it up to take up the width of the page, which isn't going to give you the best result. So you're better off using an image that is the right size or larger than the page size selected here. Okay, so we've seen this simplest of inputs. We're now going to move to the external device option. I'll just clear the tray. And I'm going to plug in a digital camera now, which we'll use as our external device. This could just as easily be a scanner. The principle's just the same. Now I'll just switch on this option and hit the scan button. Now what we're looking at here is the device's default user interface, which has been launched due to this checkbox setting being on here. I'll just note here that some devices may still launch their software even with this checkbox off. Now just while we're down here, I'll explain this one. This checkbox applies to scanners which have an automatic paper feeder, which can be set from here. So this one here launches the device's software, and this one will set a scanner to use its auto feed feature if it has one. Okay, so back to the device, we'll pick a photo. And you'll see we've now got one page in the output tray. And there it is. Okay, so we've looked at the basic input and external device input, and both of these have been output to a basic PDF output. Now we can actually switch the output so that instead of going here in the output tray, it gets delivered as an AutoDoc HSE delivery, which can be emailed or faxed or whatever. And we do that by setting a scan template number up here. I'm just going to clear the output tray, and I'll set some stuff up here which I'll explain when we see the output. I'm going to put number 7 in here, and I'll enter a template name in here, nature photos, and I'll knock down my print quality just to reduce the file size. Now before I go on, I'll warn you that this setup relies entirely on AutoDoc HSE translations. If you're not familiar with how these work, you may like to check out the reference manual or the online presentation on using translations, because what follows will be using quite a few of AutoDoc HSE's more advanced concepts, and you may find it easier to follow if you take them one at a time. Okay, back to it. I'm also going to bring up the AutoDoc HSE main console here and go to the detailed log so that we can watch what's going on here. So this is completely blank at the moment because the main AutoDoc HSE engine hasn't processed any of our scans so far. These have all been handled by the client viewer, which you can see here in the client viewer's log. But now that we've specified a scan template in here, the client viewer will actually pass the job back to the main AutoDoc HSE console, and we'll see what happens when I paste in an image and scan now. So we've got some action up here in the detailed log now, but we've also got some output down here in the scanner. So let me just explain what's happened here. The scanner has grabbed the job and sent it to AutoDoc HSE simply because we've specified a scan template here. That's the trigger for the client viewer to pass a scan job to AutoDoc HSE. But along with the job itself, the scanner has also invented some coloured text to accompany it, which we can find here in the colours and words area. So even though all we've scanned is an image, the output has some colour-coded text in it. Now this is actually generated by the scanner based on information from the job. Looking at this text, in the first line, the word scan is just a prefix to indicate that it's come from the scanner. Then we have the username, and then the number 7 comes from the scan template number. The second line up here is just an abbreviation of the first line, and the third line comes from the document number down here, which we've set up as an auto-incrementing number. And the last line comes from the name of the template itself. Now, with respect to this actual color coding of the text itself, you may have noticed already that the RGB values are just in a series incrementing by 2. So we're going 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on. These numbers will be the same for any scan job that has any scan template specified. Because remember, there is actually no text in the image. These are just the RGB values that the scanner produces to be able to provide AutoDoc HSE some hooks that it can work with. So processing-wise, that's all that's happened here, as you can see from the detailed log. The job has been passed to AutoDoc HSE, it's checked it out, come back with these colour-coded words, and then because there's nothing in these words, like an email address or a fax number command, it's just sent it back to the client viewer for processing, like it does with any job that doesn't trigger output, which is why we find the output down here in the output tray. So if we want to get these hooks to actually make some deliveries happen, we have to use AutoDoc HSE translations. So I'm going to use this line here as the basis of a translation. So passing the job back to viewer, AutoDoc HSE will send an email. So the easiest way to use this as a translation is to select the row like that, copy it, move to the translations area, and paste it in. So there's the trigger component of a translation in place on this side. And on the command side of the translation, I'll specify that this color-coded text should translate as an AutoDoc HSE command to email the image to me. And I'll also paste in another translation based on exactly the same text and the same values. And so that will translate to 25, which will result in the delivery being directed under AutoDoc HSE's form number 25. And I'll apply those changes. Then go back to the client viewer. This time I'll copy across our image of the river and scan it. And just for the exercise while we're waiting for the email, we'll see what happens in the log. So this time, it's found these translations that we just set up. It's processing it under Form 25 as we told it to, sending the email to me. And the email's been successfully sent, so that will arrive very soon. There it is. So it has a subject heading from form number 25. And there's our picture. We do also have some specialized functionality for using the scanner to produce packing labels, which is where these fields here and down here come into play, but we won't cover that here. Okay, we're done. Thanks again for your